Welcome to Next Level Play Therapy, a weekly podcast dedicated to supporting the next generation of child and adolescent therapists to provide exceptional play therapy services. We'll explore all things play therapy to elevate your work with children and adolescents using the therapeutic powers of play. I'll discuss practical tips and ideas so you can provide a transformative experience for your young clients and make a real difference in their lives. So get ready to take your play therapy skills to the next level and make a lasting impact in the lives of children, adolescents, and families. Hey there, good morning. So this week's episode, we're going to be talking about congruence and how that plays a role in your therapeutic relationship building. And if you've been listening to any of my previous live webinar or my live stream episodes, you'll know I have two dogs, Lily and Luna. And this morning, Lily is playing the in and out game. I don't know if you have dogs and your dogs play the in and out game. The in and out game is, I want in your office, I want out of your office, I want in your office, I want out of your office. And Lily will scratch at the door. So now I have left my door open, which means you're likely to hear my husband rambling around as he gets ready to leave for work. You'll hear my other dog. So if you hear any weird noise in the background, it is my crazy dogs. And now that I have hit the go live button, Lily is no longer playing the in and out game. She has taken off for other parts of the house. So it's one of those mornings, you just got to learn to roll with it, is what I've come to realize when going live. Oh no, she heard me say her name. So she's out in the hallway looking at me. Anyways, so today's episode, I want to talk about congruence and how congruence relates to your therapeutic rapport building, that therapeutic relationship, because a therapeutic relationship, in my opinion, really anchors the play therapy process and anchors the child in that change process, feeling safe within that playroom space that you've created. So what exactly is congruence and how exactly do you become congruent? Such a fancy word. So there were some experts in the play therapy world, and they wrote an article in the Association for Play Therapy Journal, which is called the International Journal of Play Therapy. Sorry, I had to remember exactly what the words were. So if you are a member of the Association for Play Therapy, you would have gotten, well, if you were a member back in 2014. So if I put in the description, I put the reference for the article if you ever want to look it up. If you've been a member of the Association for Play Therapy since 2014, or you were a member in 2014, it is volume 23, number 1. The article title is titled A Way of Being in the Playroom, Experience, Expression, Congruence Model. It's by D. Ray, Kimberly Jane, and Haley Stuhlmaker. And so I thought it would be interesting. I always like to go through the literature in the professional journals and see what's going on, or just some kind of staying on top of trends and things going on in the research about working with children and adolescents in the mental health field. And so I came across this article, and I thought it was really, really helpful in terms of understanding congruence and what exactly is congruence. The article goes on to talk about their that experience, expression, congruence model. So I'll touch on what that is. If you're interested in learning more about it, you can always go find their article. So first and foremost, what is congruence? So essentially, in play therapy, we know, well, in mental health in general, That therapeutic relationship is really critical in the change process. So, the ability to create a strong therapeutic relationship with your client so that they can get grounded in that sense of feeling your unconditional positive regard, empathy, and your ability to experience self-awareness are all this is real this is these are the essential ingredients, so to speak, for building that strong therapeutic rapport. And I always say it's where the magic happens that really grounds the play therapy process. And being able to use your theoretical model will dictate how you show up in the playroom, how you engage in that therapeutic rapport building based in your congruence with your client around unconditional positive regard, empathy, and awareness. So, what exactly is congruence? So, congruence is essentially your alignment between your internal experiences, like your emotions, your thoughts, your body physiological experiences, if you have a rumbly tummy or you have a headache, and your external expression and experiences of your internal experiences. For example, your facial expressions, your body language, voice tone, what words you're using, all of those, that alignment between the internal and external is what is important in the congruence process. So I just realized I forgot to check in and say what, there we go. What is congruence? Sorry, I was using my little banners. So I forgot to check in. So I would love to know who's here. Post your name in the comments. Where are you from? What population do you work with? And any questions? So I'm Cathi Spooner. I'm a licensed clinical social worker, a registered play therapist supervisor, and I've been in the child and adolescent mental health field for about 30 years now. Prior to that, I was a special education teacher in a self-contained, this was back in the 80s, we had self-contained classrooms back then were prominent. That was the main way of doing special education back then. And I worked with children who had emotional problems that were impacting their ability to be successfully integrated into a mainstream classroom. And in our center, we had a full-time a part-time psychologist and a part-time social worker. And this was back in the 80s. And they introduced me to this thing called play therapy. And they were doing this play therapy thing with the kids in my classroom, which I thought was kind of interesting, but it made no sense to me when they tried to show me what kids from my classroom had done. And when I ended up co-facilitating a play therapy group with the school psychologist, then that's where I really, really understood the power of play therapy. And then from there decided, oh, that's what I want to do, and went back and got my master's degree. So let me check in and see who's here today. We have Angela. I agree with therapeutic rapport for both the little ones and families. Absolutely. We need to develop that rapport with parents and families as well. I totally agree with that. And we have Facebook user Steph. Good morning, Cathi. Took an act of Congress to get me out of bed today, but I love these live streams so much. That's awesome. Thank you, Steph. Glad you're here. Steph is also in my Play Therapy Academy, which I'll talk a little bit more about at the end. What is Play Therapy Academy and how play therapy can really help you take what you're learning in trainings, even these live streams, and implement them in real time with your clients. So to me, that's I was just having a conversation about this yesterday with somebody who I was talking to about Play Therapy Academy. And, what we do, and me as well, take trainings and read books and articles, which is great. We need to do that. The thing is, being able to apply it in real time with your clients based on their individualized ways in which they show up in the playroom, what's going on with them, their parents, their families, all of those things. Doing the consultation, which is also known as supervision, can be a really effective way to help you take what you're learning and apply it in real time. So I'll talk a little bit more about Play Therapy Academy at the end if you're interested in doing that, getting some support to take what you're learning and apply it in real time, doing your clinical decision making, understanding what's going on, and to really help you learn how to use play therapy with children and adolescents and families effectively. So we also have Kelly. Welcome back. Awesome. So play therapy. So I've been talking about what congruence is, and essentially congruence is that alignment between your internal and external experiences and how those are expressed in the play therapy session. And my foundational training is really in child-centered play therapy. That's the training that I received. That's the consulting that I received, how to use child-centered play therapy. And congruence is really one of the hallmarks, I would say, of child-centered play therapy. It's really part of that change agent process. Congruence is necessary in all therapeutic models, I would say, and that includes all the play therapy models. I would say it's one of the critical factors for child-centered play therapy, which I think is why a lot of times play therapists kind of shy away from child-centered play therapy. Is because really it really is your therapeutic use of self, how you show up in the playroom, how you use the tracking, how you use that congruence throughout the change process, because you're actually the change agent in those child-centered play therapy sessions. What I mean by that is that therapeutic experience is the change process as you follow, because you are not leading. You're not asking questions. You're not making any directive statements. You are 100% following, and there's a way in which you do that, and you use that therapeutic relationship through that process. And it's hard. It's hard to learn. It takes a lot of practice. I've found, though, especially when I'm working with young kids, 8 years and younger, I have found child-centered play therapy to be the most effective. So it really is my go-to for the really young kids, to help them work through whatever it is that's going on. So what is the role? My segue into what is the role of congruence in play therapy? And that therapeutic use of self is a core competency in becoming a play therapist. So in the United States, we have an association called the Association for Play Therapy. And I'm a registered play therapist supervisor through the Association for Play Therapy, which means I have met the core competencies and met all of the requirements in order to use play therapy and use that credential, registered play therapist supervisor, which means there are core competencies that I would be able to demonstrate. One of the core competencies is that therapeutic relationship, and how that rapport building and all of those rapport building skills like unconditional positive regard, empathy, awareness, congruence, and that how we show up with that therapeutic use of self, demonstrating unconditional positive regard, empathy, and congruence. How do we do that in using ourself in the process? And so congruence is one of the really key ingredients for being able to be congruent with unconditional positive regard and empathy requires that awareness of self-awareness, and how do we demonstrate congruence in the playroom, because your clients are going to recognize when you're not congruent. That whole process of, I would say, using my resonance circuits, as Daniel Siegel would call, because I love using neuroscience and attachment. I love using that lens when I'm doing the therapeutic work. And so what does that mean? Well, part of it is we have to tune into our clients, that resonant circuitry, getting connected, being attuned. And then we also have to be aligned, meaning my internal experience of feeling that unconditional positive regard and that empathy and acceptance needs to be, if I can't feel it internally, then the likelihood it's going to be impacted and my expression of it is pretty high. And depending on your play therapy model will determine how you handle that. One of the things that I liked about this experience, expression, congruence model, which I'll talk about in a minute, I'll just give you an overview. When I read the article, was really talking about your decision making. One, being a therapist, one of the things that we're always doing is self-awareness and understanding what's going on in us, so that when we're tuning with our clients, we understand what's us, what's not us. So we're looking at that transference and countertransference, to use some of the traditional therapeutic language. And to do that, we need to be aware. To be congruent, we need to understand what's going on with that. And then we're making decisions about what we're going to do with that. And children are going to recognize that in the playroom. And so it really can impact that therapeutic rapport. And so it's a really important skill to learn how to use. So also, to be able to use congruence and authenticity, how do I authentically and congruently show up in the playroom, is a skill that we learn along the way. And to me, this is where getting some good consultation supervision is critical to be able to do this effectively. So the next thing that I wanted to focus on is really kind of giving an overview of this model of, like, how do you develop congruence in play therapy? And I thought this model was a really good framework for understanding how that works. I love a good framework. To me, if I have a framework, it helps me navigate all of that decision making through that change process, throughout the treatment process and within the session. So one of the things I liked is they had a whole framework about their model, which I thought was amazing. So here's the thing you have to keep in mind first and foremost, because we therapists like to be helper people and can be a little hard on ourselves, a little super critical, especially in the beginning, when your imposter syndrome is high and you think you're just horrendous all the time. And the likelihood you're horrendous is pretty darn slim, especially when we're learning. There's a lot to keep in mind, and it can be hard to not go into that critical space and think we're the worst play therapists on the planet and our imposter syndrome is alive and well. The first thing to keep in mind is nobody can be congruent 100% of the time in the playroom. You can't be congruent 100% of the time in life. So if you think about how many sessions you have every day and you are opening yourself up in the playroom to be congruent, to be attuned consistently for 45 minutes to an hour, sustained, session after session, day after day after day, year after year, it's impossible. No, nobody can do that. So with that in mind, then, how do you develop the ability to be congruent? And what does that look like in the playroom so that you can be as effective as possible to facilitate healing for children and adolescents. And so, self-disclosure, my other dog, Luna, is now in the office, and she has just heard me say her name. So her tail is just wagging. So if you hear, now she's leaving because I'm talking about her. So if you hear moaning noises, shaky noises, it's just my dogs coming in and out of my office. I promise I'm not doing any weird things in the background. I was watching one of my replay videos because I'll repurpose these videos and make them into social posts. And I was going through and watching, I think it might have been last week's live stream. And for like 15 minutes, I didn't realize you could see Luna in the background in the live stream, rolling around and moaning in the background. I was thinking, first I was kind of appalled. And then I was like, you know what? Just show it up, being real in the live streams. There's my dog, Luna. Luna has left the room, so you won't hear any weird noises. As a question, the question is, you may answer this down the line, but how does model congruence if A, you just don't feel good, B, you're uncomfortable with the client, example, the adult that I talked about in supervision the other day, angry and sends me not yes. Oh, Steph, you need to bring that up in Play Therapy Academy. You need to bring that up. We need to chat about that. Also, you know what I can do also? So in Play Therapy Academy, we have these group chats for support in between our group meetings. So you know what I think I'll do, Steph? I'll go in the group chat and answer that in a little more in depth. How do I show that when I feel discomfort with their overall presentation, which is, this is one of the things that I think is so awesome about you, Steph, is you're willing to be honest with yourself first and foremost, and honest. So, you are not. So Steph, no, you are not, Steph. How do I show the discomfort? I'm definitely working on building empathy, but it's a challenge with the refusal to, yes. And here's the thing, Steph, you're not the only one that feels that way. This is challenging. This is challenging work. There are times I have felt this way over the last 30 years. It doesn't matter how much experience you have in the field. This is one of the reasons why I thought this topic was really important, not only for new play therapists, but also for those of us who have been in the field for a while. This is true if you're a play therapist or you're a mental health professional, not using play therapy, but maybe using other therapeutic models. This idea of congruence and therapeutic rapport and that therapeutic use of self. So this is a really great question, Steph. And you're critical. You are not. Neither. One of the things I like, Steph, is that you're willing to ask the questions because you want to learn. So I think that's awesome. Good for you. Is that therapeutic use of self means we open ourselves up to our clients in a professional way. So doing that professionally means we are monitoring and understanding what's going on and doing that clinical decision making in the moment. Okay, here's what I'm experiencing. Is this me? Is this not me? What do I do with this? What does this mean? How do I respond to this? And it's challenging, which is why, there's that whole idea of burnout in the mental health field is real. So what do we do with that? The side note here, the thing that gets on my nerves, just kind of drives me crazy about the whole topic of burnout. Burned out, I'm tired, I'm exhausted, and now you want me to do more things. So in my mind, there's a whole different conversation about burnout that we need to have. That's a topic for another conversation. I think I actually addressed that in a previous live streams, which I'll just take this time. If you're interested, I go live every week on Wednesday at 7 a.m. Pacific time. I live stream into my Facebook group, which is Play and Expressive Arts Therapy. So that's a Facebook group for child and adolescent therapists using play therapy and expressive arts. If you're interested in that Facebook group, you can hop over there if you're in Facebook. You do have to answer all the questions, though, in order to get into the group. I also live stream into LinkedIn. I live stream into my YouTube channel, and then I use StreamYard to live stream into those so you can see my fancy little banners. I also simultaneously from my phone live stream into Instagram. So if you're watching on Instagram, you don't get to see my fancy little banners. But that being said, the reason I brought that up, one, if you're interested in watching the live streams every week, that's what I do. I talk about all things play therapy and expressive arts. I will also be having a podcast coming out. You're the first to hear this. I'm going to have one coming out in 2024. I'm targeting launching that in January. So that podcast coming. For now, though, if you're interested in watching some of the previous live streams, you can always pop over to my YouTube channel, Renewing Hearts Training, Cathi Spooner. Click on the live tab and you'll see all of my previous live streams. In my Facebook group, you can see them in the featured section. So if you click on the featured section, I pin them there. If you're watching on Instagram, you can see them in my grid. It's probably easiest, though, to pop over to my YouTube channel and watch them over there. But I did talk about the concept of burnout, and I think there's another way to think about burnout rather than giving me more things I have to do in my already busy day, which is good. It is good to do that, but I don't mean to say that those aren't good. I love going for hikes. That's my self-care. I'll have my morning coffee. That's my other self-care. There are some other things we can do, but I just think it's a bigger conversation. And the reason we have it is because we are opening ourselves up to be congruent, to be authentic, that authentic use of self in the playroom within a professional context means there are certain things that we need to be doing. So that's one of the things that I liked about the model is the experience, expression, congruence model. I put the reference for the article in the description. So if you want to check out the article for yourself, which I would highly recommend, then you can pop over there. And if you have access to professional journals, then you can get access to it. So the purpose, I'm going to read you a quote from the article. The purpose of the model is that we designed a model to help children understand. Sorry, let me restart. I was reading a comment at the same time while trying to focus on it. My multitasking didn't work very well. So here's the quote from the article. We designed a model to help understand the nature of congruence, recognize the impact of congruence in play therapy sessions, and intentionally use the therapist's awareness of congruence to benefit the client. And that's the key, being able to use that information, use that process to benefit the client. And they go on to say a play therapist moves in and out of presence with self and presence with child. Congruence is experienced as the flow within the relationship that lacks self-consciousness on the part of the therapist. In a fully congruent and relational state, the play therapist operates within the child's world, empathic understanding, and provides enhanced experiences of unconditional positive regard. So they came up with two phases, phase 1 and phase 2. Phase 1, just to kind of summarize what they talked about in the article, is really focused on the therapist's state of being in order to develop that ability to recognize when congruence is happening and when it's not. So phase 1 is really about the therapist being able to recognize internally what's going on when they're congruent and when they're not. And then phase 2 is really focused on that decision making about what to do with their awareness of congruence and how to make sure that it benefits the child in the play therapy process. One of the things they talk about also is congruence isn't linear, it's fluid and dynamic. And I would say that's true. So kind of going back to the question that Steph asked, what if you just don't feel good? And that's a valid question. Sometimes we just don't feel good and we're struggling, which is why congruence 100% of the time, every day, every session, every hour, day after day, week after week, year after year. It's impossible. Nobody can do that. We are not robots, as my husband once reminded me. Like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm not a robot. That's right. Giving myself permission to be human. These are the things that we're recognizing what's going on first and foremost. And then we recognize, well, what do we need to do with that? Because sometimes our clients do elicit negative emotions in us. Like, for example, if I'm using child-centered play therapy and my client is pointing a Nerf gun at my face with Nerf darts in it and saying they're going to shoot me in the face, and I set my limit. Oh, and here, remember I said you could say anything you want to say or do almost anything you want to do. And if there's anything you can't do, I would let you know. Well, in here, I'm not for shooting. And here, one of the things you can't do is shoot me with the dart gun, with the Nerf gun. But what happens when they look at you and they're like, oh yeah, I'm shooting you in the face? And I'm thinking to myself, he's going to poke my eye out. This is going to hurt. I'm not congruent in that moment. So what do I do? This is where the decision-making comes in. What am I going to do next? And depending on your therapeutic model will determine how you handle that. How do you set those limits in the playroom? Limits are really about protecting the relationship. So if I set a limit, it's because I don't want to be shot in the face with a bullet. One, it will hurt. And then it will begin to make me not like that client. And how will I demonstrate unconditional positive regard if I begin to dread, oh, it's the kid that's going to shoot me in the face with a Nerf gun? I'm not going to be able to do it. I'm not a robot. I'm a human being. And I don't like being shot in the face with a dart gun. It hurts and I don't want to get hurt. And setting limits is about protecting the child, protecting the therapist, and protecting the toys in the playroom to maintain that therapeutic relationship. So part of that congruence is understanding, one, first and foremost, what's going on inside of me. And then the second part is, now what am I going to do about that? And I thought this model, this congruence model, was a really nice way of kind of laying that out. So there's another question from Ali. Does play therapy work for children who suffer from psychosomatic diseases such as, I have never heard of that disorder. That's interesting. And I would say, just because I'm not familiar with that specific one, and I'll be looking that one up later because I'm curious now. It doesn't, and we know psychosomatic things show up all the time. They're kind of rooted in their mental health distress, right? Oh, yes, play therapy can help because it's rooted in a mental health issue. And we also know mental health problems can also negatively impact physical health. So stress, we know stress can have some negative physical effects as well. So play therapy can definitely help. And I would say, based on your theoretical model, play therapy theoretical model will determine how you address that in the play therapy sessions. But that's a great question. So Angela asks, what's the name of the Facebook group? Missed it. It's called Play and Expressive Arts Therapy Playground. So you can hop over there and check on that. When you do, just make sure you answer all of the questions. There are a few questions so that then you get automatically admitted into the group. And then I'll see you when you're in there and I'll pop in and say hi. All right, so that is it for today. And I try to keep these under 40 minutes, so I'm right kind of at that time. So I'm going to speed up a tiny bit, which is, let me give a recap for today. First and foremost, what is congruence? Congruence is essentially that our way of being and our awareness of our way of being in the session. It's aligning our internal and external experiences. The role of congruence is to be able to show up authentically in the session and create that safe therapeutic relationship. And depending on your theoretical model, like child-centered play therapy, this is one of the core skills needed in play therapy. And then you're tracking and how are you present and how are you congruent throughout all the stages of the change process is going to be based on that theoretical model. So it's really important in facilitating the change, facilitating that therapeutic rapport, which is really the anchor of the change process. So if you're not congruent, then it really can impact that therapeutic relationship, which is why one of the things that we're always talking about in mental health, in addition to including play therapy, is how do I use how do I do that therapeutic use of self in the sessions and show up authentically and congruent in the sessions? And then thirdly, developing congruence in play therapy really requires like a lot of self-awareness and understanding what's me, what's not me, how do I use it, what do I do with it. And the model that was developed by Ray, Jane, and Soulmaker called experience, expression, congruence model, I think is a really good model to help walk you through that process. And again, I put the reference for that article. It's called A Way of Being in the Playroom, Experience, Expression, Congruence Model. So I put that reference in the description if you want to check out that article. Oh, okay. And then Ali said, sorry, I wrote, oh, okay, you put the automatic disorder. Interesting. So question, Angela said, what do you do if the child is not cooperative? Yeah, like my experience. And that's really going to be, that's the limit setting. It's also that limit setting is going to be based on your theoretical model. So how I would do limit setting in using a child-centered play therapy model is probably going to be different than if using Gestalt play therapy or cognitive behavioral play therapy or Adlerian play therapy. So that's a great question. And that one comes up a lot. We talk about that one a lot also in my Play Therapy Academy, because depending on your play therapy model is going to determine how you set those limits and how you address that in the sessions. And yes, it happens all the time. That's a great question. So let me just give you a little bit of info. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy, it is my online play therapy program. It's twice a month for 90-minute consultation meetings. We do case presentations. So you not only get my 30 years of experience in mental health, plus all of my special education background from 40 years ago. And you also get the experience of your group members. So collaboratively, there's a lot of great feedback that we do in those group meetings, taking what you're learning in trainings and applying them in real time. And what does that look like using your theoretical model? The other thing in Play Therapy Academy, there's some online courses that are included, some of the foundational trainings needed for play therapy. All of the Getting Grounded in Play Therapy courses are in Play Therapy Academy. So Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Foundations, Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Case Conceptualization, Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Treatment Planning. The next course that I'll be dropping into Play Therapy Academy and probably the end of November is going to be Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Progress Notes. That one's going to be in there. We also have a group chat feature for support, and there's some other bonuses. If you're interested in Play Therapy Academy, you can pop over to my website at rhplaytherapytraining.com. Click on the supervision page. We'll also put a link in the comments. There'll also be a link in there if you want to schedule a free 30-minute video call with me to talk more about Play Therapy Academy to see if it's a good fit for you. You can schedule that 30-minute video call with me and we can see if it's a good fit for you. If you're interested, all of the courses, maybe you don't need the consultation piece of it, you don't need the supervision and the Play Therapy Academy program, and you're interested in the courses, you can purchase the courses, the Getting Grounded in Play Therapy Excellence courses, all the ones they're kind of like a la carte. You can pop over to my website, click on the courses page, they'll be in there. So bye for now, and I will see you next week. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Next Level Play Therapy. I hope you found the discussion valuable and gained new insights and ideas to support your work helping children, adolescents, and families heal. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to the podcast and leave a review. Your feedback helps to improve and reach more people who can benefit from this information. Remember, play therapy is a powerful tool for healing and growth. Whether you're a new play therapist or experienced, I encourage you to continue your learning journey to unlock the potential of play in your own work and relationships. If you have any questions or topic suggestions for future episodes, I'd love to hear from you. Connect with me on social media and visit my website at Renewing Hearts Play Therapy Training to stay updated on upcoming episodes, trainings, and resources. Thank you once again for listening to Next Level Play Therapy. Until next time, keep playing, learning, and growing.